Jesus wept, the shortest sentence in the entire Bible, yet perhaps one of the deepest. Have you ever stopped to wonder why Jesus wept? And what if I told you, it wasn't just because of Lazarus? That deeply moving scene, recorded in John chapter 11, reveals something powerful about the heart of God, something that could completely change the way you see pain and hope. In this video, we're going to walk through the tears of Jesus, understanding each one, from Bethany to Gethsemane. Get ready to discover that God's tears are never in vain, and that those tears carried an eternal purpose. Stay with me until the end, because in the final minutes, we'll reveal something most people overlook in this story, a detail that connects Lazarus's miracle to your own life. Before we speak about the tears, we need to remember something essential. Jesus was fully God, but also fully human. He didn't pretend to feel. He truly felt hunger, thirst, joy, anguish, and sorrow. It might seem obvious, but it changes everything. The Son of God wasn't a cold observer of human pain. He experienced it in his own flesh. So often we imagine a Christ who's always serene, almost untouchable. But the Gospels paint a different picture. A Savior who rejoices at weddings, grows tired of the crowds, gets angry at hypocrites, and weeps, not out of weakness, but because to love deeply is to feel deeply, and Jesus loved with divine intensity and a human heart. The writer of Hebrews said, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin." Hebrews 4:15. In other words, Jesus understands what we feel because he's felt it too, and that changes how we face our pain. We're not praying to a distant God, but to a God who has wept. So when we see Jesus shedding tears for Lazarus, for Jerusalem, or in Gethsemane, it isn't a symbolic gesture. It's the heart of a God who feels, a God who's moved, who looks at our pain and does not turn away. Isn't that incredible? And maybe it's exactly what you needed to remember today. Lazarus wasn't just a disciple, he was a friend, a close friend of Jesus. He, Martha, and Mary opened their home and their hearts to the Master. They welcomed him with love, listened to his words, and shared meals together. It was a bond of sincere affection, like the kind you have with someone who knows your secrets and your sorrows. And that friendship reached heaven. Now picture this scene. Lazarus falls ill. Martha and Mary send Jesus an urgent message. They don't ask for healing. They simply say, "Lord, the one you love is sick." John 11:3. The love between them was so evident that one sentence was enough. But Jesus didn't come right away. He delayed. Days passed, and Lazarus died. The sisters, heartbroken, must have wondered, if he loves us, why didn't he come? When Jesus finally arrived in Bethany, grief had already filled the air. Tears were everywhere. Martha ran out to meet him and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." John 11:21. And right here, the tone of the story shifts. Jesus doesn't rebuke her. He listens, he comforts, he feels. And a little later, he weeps. But did he weep only for Lazarus? Jesus knew what was about to happen. He knew that death would soon be undone, and still he wept. Which leads us to a deeper question. What, exactly, moved the heart of Jesus in that moment? The answer could forever change the way you understand the love of God. When Jesus arrived in Bethany, he saw the scene of sorrow around him. There were tears, groans, and broken hearts. He felt the real weight of that loss. And yet, he knew Lazarus would soon walk out of the tomb. A miracle was about to happen, so why the tears? What was truly moving the heart of Jesus at that moment? The tears of Jesus went beyond the sorrow for a friend who had died. They revealed something greater, a deep compassion for human suffering, a grief over the unbelief that keeps people from hope, and the heavy burden of sin that leads to death. He wept because the world was still trapped in pain and mourning. In the book of John, chapter 11, verse 35, the phrase, "Jesus wept," is the shortest in the Bible, but it holds a world of meaning. That tear shows us the full humanity of Christ, a God who isn't indifferent to our pain, a Savior who feels with us, who grieves with us. Have you ever realized that God Himself understands your tears? And what if Jesus' tears in that moment were an invitation for you to see Him not only as a distant Savior, but as a friend who feels your pain? The tears of Jesus challenge us to trust that, even in sadness, there's a purpose and a hope far greater than what our eyes can see. Jesus didn't weep only for Lazarus. His tears also fell for Jerusalem, that beloved city, a city that rejected peace and turned away from its Savior. Luke 19:41. He wept because his people did not recognize the time when God came to them. It's almost unimaginable, a love so deep it moves to tears for those who turn away. And those tears didn't stop there. In the Garden of Gethsemane, just before the cross, He entered a moment of overwhelming anguish. He prayed, sweat drops of blood, Luke 22:44, and wept, carrying the weight of the world's sin upon Himself. It was the sorrow of separation, of suffering, and a mission that only love could endure. It's extraordinary how every tear Jesus shed carried an eternal purpose. He didn't cry out of weakness, but out of love and compassion. And speaking of that, if you're finding value in this message, how about taking a quick moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a like? It helps me know you want more messages like this. No worries, we'll jump right back into the heart of this story. Let's continue. Those tears show us a God who cares deeply, who feels every human sorrow and stands beside us in our anguish. Jesus isn't only the God of glory, He's also the God of the brokenhearted. The tears Jesus shed didn't stay in the past. They still echo today as a reminder. God understands our pain, and He walks with us. When you feel alone, crushed by sorrow, know that the God who wept is right there with you, offering comfort and hope. In Revelation 21:4, God makes a clear promise. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. That assures us pain will not last forever. Jesus identifies with our tears because He's shed His own, and through them, He shows us that no suffering goes unnoticed by Him. Have you ever felt like your pain was too heavy to bear? Remember, Jesus felt anguish, fear, and sorrow before conquering death. He is the faithful presence in your storm, the hand that holds yours when everything seems lost. And what if this very truth that God shares in your pain is exactly what you need to renew your faith today? The tears of Jesus invite us to trust that even in our darkest moments, God's love never abandons us. The tears of Jesus were never just a sign of passing sorrow. They carry a deep, life-changing message. When Jesus wept for Lazarus, He already knew that death was not the final chapter of that story. Lazarus would rise again, and that miracle revealed Christ's power over death, a moment that pointed ahead to His own resurrection. It reminds us that even in our tears, there's a hope that never disappoints. Beyond the miracle of Lazarus, Jesus weeping for Jerusalem and His anguish in Gethsemane also reveals something far greater. These were not just expressions of pain, but demonstrations of a love willing to face suffering and rejection to bring salvation to the world. Jesus wept knowing His mission would lead to the cross, a place of pain, but also a place of victory over sin and death. Those divine tears reveal a God who doesn't ignore our pain, but transforms it. The resurrection is the promise that death has lost its power and hope is born again, even from the deepest tears. In the middle of our struggles, we can trust that God is at work, renewing our lives, bringing healing, restoration, and a future filled with peace. Have you ever stopped to realize that the tears of Jesus are also the guarantee that a new beginning is possible? Even when everything seems lost, the weeping of Christ announces a life that overcomes death. This is the hope that strengthens us and invites us to walk with confidence even in the storm, because those who weep with God are never alone, and victory is near. Jesus wept out of true, deep love. He wept for Lazarus, for Jerusalem, and for each one of us. In his tears, we see a God who is not distant, but who feels our pain, who understands our tears, and who stands beside us in the hardest moments. And if today you feel tired, wounded, or without hope, know this: He is there with you, ready to comfort your heart. The God who wept is also the God who raises the dead, who turns death into life, despair into hope. He's calling you to come closer, to lay your burdens down, and to find rest in His endless love. You are not alone. The love of Jesus is real, it's here, and it's powerful enough to change any situation. And I'd like to invite you to reflect. How is the weeping of Jesus speaking to your heart today? What hope can you find in the promise of a God who cares, even in your tears? Share your thoughts, your questions, or how this message touched you down in the comments. And if this video spoke to your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate notifications so you won't miss messages that strengthen your faith. Remember this: the tears of Jesus carry a divine purpose, to show that He is with us in our pain and that resurrection is our greatest victory. May this truth echo in your life, bringing peace, faith, and a new beginning, today and always.